Welcome, everybody. It's Christine here, and I am very excited to have with me today a good friend of mine, Guillermo Vidal, and he is an author, a prolific writer. He's the past mayor of the city of Denver, and he has a very rich story that he will share with you today. And now he is sharing with the world a concept of aging fearlessly. And today he's going to share a bit with us today about what he calls the endings and beginnings that have happened throughout his life. And so how he has developed strategies to turn those endings into new beginnings in what he calls aging fearlessly. So welcome, Guillermo.
Thank you, Christine. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you too. So you've coined the phrase aging fearlessly. What does that mean to you?
Well, I didn't come by it easily because I used to feel that aging was a curse. So to now all of a sudden think of it that, no, this is a challenge that we have that enriches our lives is certainly something that I came to over time. But to me, what it basically means is that I know and I understand that I have the power to do whatever it is that I was meant to do, everything that I can do and can decide to do. And that's the general concept of that. And that means that for all of us, regardless of our age or our situation, we have the power to become who we're meant to be, and it starts with us.
Oh, I love it. That's so empowering. I mean, as soon as you said those words, I just felt this, ta-da, this charge of confidence and energy. I love it. So how did it come about? Because I know you've said and shared that you haven't always felt this way. What spurred this transition?
I think it's just that I've had many endings and beginnings in my life, and like everyone else, and I've had a long life. I'm 72 years old, and so certainly have a long history, and they've been very difficult to where I had to basically remake my own life. I should tell you, I should mention that I'm also an immigrant. So probably the most difficult thing I ever had was that I was separated from my parents when I was 10 years old. And they sent me to the United States from Cuba. So I'm a Cuban kid during the Castro days. And then I grew up in an orphanage in Pueblo, Colorado. So over that is one of those endings and beginnings that has affected my entire life for as long as I can think of. But it was actually every time I went through one of those endings and beginnings, and then recently at 63 years old, I found myself divorced, unemployed, and living in a city where I knew no one. I began to understand how much of my being was invested into who I was, my title, or who I was married to, where I lived, how much money I had.
Right.
And then with all of that gone, I really had to do some soul searching to understand, well, then who am I? What is my purpose? What does my life mean? And now that I don't have these external things to bolster up my self-worth, who am I? And that's really what triggered a lot of this. And, through a long process of self-reflection and study and what have you, I finally came to the realization that, at the end of the day, I have the power. It is within me to do whatever it is I was meant to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you touch on some such core principles of spiritual growth, personal growth, non-attachment to our titles, our labels, our possessions. And you were forced to experience that and crawl through that and come out on the other side.
Right. Yeah. And as we all do, but I didn't realize that my process had been totally unconscious, where now I realize whenever I go through a new ending or a new beginning, now I consciously realize, okay, I have the power to make this event what it is. Now, it has limitations. And by that, I mean, like no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to be an NBA basketball player.
Right. Right.
And chances are I'm never going to own a $25 million mansion on the beach. So I'm not saying that, okay, I decide, so I create that.
Right.
No, I think it's really more of what the universe gives you in your life. You have the ability to react to it in a constructive way that furthers your own development, regardless of what that is. If a hurricane comes and hits your house, you can't stop the hurricane, but how you react to that event can really help make you and your community better from the way you behave and the actions that you take. So I think it's I want to quote. I'm trying to find it. Jimmy Carter says it best. When I read this, I adopted it, and he says, "I am called to do whatever I can, wherever I am, wherever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference." And that, to me, is what I realized, is that I had that power. But at the end of the day, whatever power you use for your own development needs to make a difference. It has to have some value to a greater good. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be, I'm king of the world. It can maybe mean you helped your neighbor who was dying greet death more constructively. Things like that. That's the power that we have.
I love it. And you said one word that really struck me is community, because this isn't all about doing all this to make ourselves feel better. Like, yes, of course, we want to be happy. We want to have inner peace. We want to enjoy the present moment. But when we do that, it ripples throughout community. And so it really is an important task to adopt a mindset of positivity, to age fearlessly, I love that Jimmy Carter quote, and he was such a wonderful demonstration of that.
It's interesting what you just said, that rung in me. I discovered that it does bring me inner joy and inner happiness to behave that way. You've experienced it. I'm sure whoever is listening to this, you thought buying a new car would make you happy. Well, after about a week, you don't even remember that you have the new car. Or you thought that title, you were going to be, the greatest. You were going to show the world how worthy you were of being loved or whatever, and it did nothing.
Right.
When you behave in this way from within, to do what you're called to do what you know you should be doing, and you're helping to build a better community, I do think that joy and gratitude flows from within.
Absolutely.
That's what's happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a blessing of the aging process that we come to realize these things on a deeper level. Like, I'm sure it's not unfamiliar to people, the analogy about the shiny new object only brings temporary excitement or happiness. But to really incorporate that at a deeper level, to really experience it, to really demonstrate it in your life, perhaps is a gift that the aging process gives us. And we learn that inner joy, peace, wisdom, strength, courage, fortitude, all are internal qualities, not given to us by anything on the outside or the material objects.
That's so well said. And then you also realize that everything external is never permanent. But everything internal is. And I just find that difference. It just lifts my soul to know that, and then you realize that aging is a gift. It's not a disability. I actually have never felt more comfortable inside my skin, more at peace with my life. I can look forward to the days ahead, whether it's one more or 20 years, that they're going to be great and that the experiences will be something that's a gift to me and help in my development. It's so different and so wonderful to live that way. Now, do I have ups and downs? Yes, sure, like everyone else.
Sure.
I spent many years of my life suffering from depression. That was also something that I had to overcome every time there was an ending, is dealing with that. And now I find that it was just, in the end, it was something that helped me get stronger. So
nice. Yeah, you have mentioned the concept of from despair to eager anticipation. And I think you just touched on that, about how in life there is always excitement. There is always something to look forward to if you're looking for it, if you have your gaze focused in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I know you and I have talked about this, how we're an observer, that realization that you're an observer of what goes on in your mind. Well, when you don't know that, when I didn't know that, I was reacting to all the thoughts that came in my mind, like if I lost a job, oh my God, oh, I'm worthless. What are people going to think? And this is terrible. And then that would get into the cycle of depression, where now you realize those thoughts still come in. But now I realize, okay, I don't have to choose that thought. You know what? Maybe I can start doing this, or maybe I can start doing that. And then it becomes something constructive. So now whenever I get those kinds of thoughts, I realize that those are my pathways to becoming calm, so that then I can choose better thoughts. They're just warnings now that, okay, calm down, so that I can go from within and then start making constructive thoughts that help me in my development, help my community, help my family, or whatever.
Very cool. So I'm going to do my best to paraphrase that so the people in the back row can hear.
Okay.
What I'm hearing Guillermo say, you said it beautifully. I'm not saying it again to clarify. I just want this to sink for people. So when those nagging, intrusive thoughts enter your mind, which they do for everybody, it's not like, poof, they've gone away. I have intrusive thoughts. You have intrusive thoughts. We all do. It's part of the human condition. But when those come into your mind, instead of considering that they're real, that they're the truth, or that they have power over you or meaning, you can use them as a springboard, a warning system, a neon flashing light that's like, hey, wake up. This is a symbol or signal, a signal for a shift, to get outside of the box, to look at it differently, to withdraw and look at it as if you were a neutral observer, to problem solve, to be creative about other options, to look at the bright side. It can be more of a signal than, don't latch on to intrusive thoughts as your anchor. Use them as your springboard to propel you forward.
Yeah. At a very minimum, the shift that was in me is that I don't have to choose those thoughts.
Yeah.
And even and sometimes I choose them, and then I realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that, and then I can let go of them. But the fact is that we have the power. This goes back to, we are responsible for our own lives and our ability to do what we have. Well, the main responsibility is, what thoughts do you choose?
Right.
And so I've learned that you can choose different thoughts, and that makes your life completely different.
Right. I heard a wonderful analogy one day. You open your closet and you're choosing which shirt to wear, and nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. But you don't get emotionally attached to the shirts.
Right.
I don't want the red one today. I don't want the blue one today. I don't want the yellow one today. I want the green one today. You don't get emotionally attached to them. So you can use that as an exercise with these intrusive thoughts. Nope, I don't want to choose that one today. I would like to choose a different one.
Yeah.
And when we don't get so emotionally attached to them, that breaks the cycle of pain and discomfort that they can cause for you.
I really love that metaphor, because it does feel like that. Okay, You know what? And by the way, you acknowledge that you have them.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not a bad person because you have them. You
Right,
have them, but you
right,
don't have to pick them. Like you don't have to take that shirt.
right.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
And when you acknowledge them, doesn't that sort of take some of the power away from them? They
I
lose
think
grip
so.
on you. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
But and then you realize you're like everyone else in the world. And when you see, by the way, when you see someone else who's behaving after having picked those destructive thoughts, I actually have sympathy for them
Yeah.
because I realize how much pain that's bringing them.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
has for me when I picked those thoughts. So, and then I do even feel a connection. Boy, we are all in this together. We're in different processes, but
Right.
these are the same kinds of things that happen to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the empathy that we can have when we begin to be aware that we're having these thoughts, that other people are having these thoughts.
Yeah.
So when you adopted this aging fearlessly attitude, what shifted in your life? How is it different now?
I think, we touch on already. I think the number one thing, and it was really hard for me because, as you mentioned, I was mayor of Denver. So, imagine I was mayor of Denver. I had a security detail like the president. So everywhere I went, the restaurants, oh, Mr. Mayor, come in. And they have a table for you and things like that. Then all of a sudden that's gone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was considered maybe a legend in my own mind, but people tell me that I was a pillar of the community in Denver. And then all of a sudden I'm living in Vero Beach, Florida, where I don't know anyone, not even a friend, and so all of a sudden I find myself that all of these things that I just thought I was so cool because I had them, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And so what that taught me is to realize, again, back to I am the one responsible for creating my life. It's not my parents. It's not my kids. It's not my friends. It's not the amount of money I have or the house that I own. It's not the title. But the buck stops with me. No excuses, no rationalization. I am the only one who stands in my way. Period. And I have to say, it's a very freeing realization, but it has great responsibility with it as well.
Absolutely.
Not easily done. I'd say the second shift that occurred was that my self-worth, when I realized that my self-worth was not defined by those things either. In other words, I am mayor of Denver is like something I did. It's like a car that I owned that I no longer own. It wasn't who I am. And that for me, especially for people who are retiring, when all of a sudden they don't have a title, they don't have a function, that you feel lost. I mean, it is confusing because you realize, well, what does my life mean? Then what is my purpose? Because I used to go and do this, and then it wasn't easy for me to go, oh, okay, well, happiness is an internal process,
right.
But it took me a while to understand that all of those things that I have done, including even, by the way, my separation from my parents, all those endings and beginnings, what I began to realize what there were things that the universe used to help me develop along the way. There were lessons in my life, and I was supposed to learn from them, which eventually I did. But I didn't realize that I was becoming attached to the things that felt good and then detached from the things that felt bad.
Sure.
So that was, I'd say, those two shifts were big in that, it helped me define my self-worth, not as the title that I have, but how I live from within. And I realize that that's a very generalized comment, but you do have something that speaks to you from within. I used to call it my little peanut. because it used to be this soft voice that
Yeah.
if I was just still, I could hear. And now it's a little bit more certain one. And I'd say then the last thing, which is important, which is what fearless part is about, is that I come to realize how much my fears lead me in the direction I need to go.
Interesting.
So now I'm not saying like if you don't want to jump out of an airplane with a parachute because you're afraid of heights, that's normal, or you're afraid of spiders or whatever.
Right.
Now, recently, I was telling you, I went scuba diving. It's
Mm-hmm.
good to overcome those fears now and again because they can
Sure.
deprive you of experiences that are really enriching. So I learned to scuba dive 2 months ago because my girlfriend and I went on a really long trip where we went to Australia to scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef. Well, I'm afraid of water and I'm really claustrophobic.
Yeah.
So I have to really push myself to get certified. I wanted to quit every time I went, and so I somehow hung in there because the vision of being underwater and seeing the mystery and beauty of underwater was enough of a drive for me to do it. So I was able to overcome it. We went scuba diving. It was wonderful. So there is a time when you can overcome those kinds of fears.
Sure.
But the fears I'm talking about are the ones that you've created over a lifetime, like afraid of what people will think if you do something. And by the way, I want to add to those people, not just friends, but your family, your children say, "Oh, Dad, you could die doing that kind of thing," and then you don't want them to think that. Those are the fears you need to overcome. Another one's fear of failure. Oh, you know what? I've never been very athletic, so I'm not even going to try that. Or a feeling of fear that you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are to me the fears that you need to overcome. That to me, the fearless part is when you see those fears in front of you. What will people think if I do that?
Right.
To me, that's now the gateway to where I need to go. That's what I need to do, so that I can overcome that fear, because that fear is blocking me from becoming who I am.
Yeah.
I have learned that even when you want something and you want it badly, there is fear involved.
Absolutely.
To go after it. And those are the fears that I think are involved. Those fears of what will people think? I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. And it takes willpower, or choosing not to succumb to the fear. Let's talk about the choosing thoughts.
Yeah.
The choosing not to succumb to the fear. So I think those are the three big shifts that I've had. I've had more, but those are three
Sure.
big.
I mean, especially how you ended that is so powerful. If we can chip away at these internal fears that are so universal: fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of being abandoned, fear of being unlovable or unworthy. Imagine how your life can just open up and explode with exciting things and love and beauty when you can even just turn down the dial on some of those fears.
Yeah. And you know, I think you really said that so well. For me, it's wonderful to live a life that's buoyed by my sense of gratitude, not only for where I am today, but even for the things that happened that have led me to this point. And then this understanding that my coming days, you know, my best years aren't behind me. The coming days offer something new, a new lesson, a new experience. And you know, when you get older, you realize you're closer to your death than you are to your beginning. Yeah. But even then, to feel like even if I have one more hour, even if I have 10 more days, those not only can still be wonderful, are wonderful in many different ways. So I think the shift has been great for me. It's just made my life so much better.
Oh, that's fabulous. And this is wisdom for any phase of life, to live with the attitude, with the knowledge that the days ahead are going to be filled with wonder, excitement. There is always something new you can learn, can experience, to dig deeper into, to see with new eyes, and that's something that's available to all of us, regardless of our age, our abilities. I just love that shift.
I think so. I wish, like when I was mayor of Denver, for example, had I had the attitude I had now, I may have done a much better job.
Interesting.
So, but I didn't know better then. I do now.
Right. We're all doing the best we can with the resources we have, right?
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Now, I know you are the author of 3 books and possibly hundreds of blog articles. So you've been writing about some of these experiences. Do you want to tell us briefly about your books? And then also, so everybody knows, I'll post links in the description of the video as well as in the comments of how you can find Guillermo's books and how you can find his YouTube channel and other resources that he has. But what have you written, Guillermo?
So there are 3 unique books. My first book, titled "Boxing for Cuba," is my family's immigration story in the United States, and it is a wonderful story. In fact, there's a documentary that's been done about it that is now going around all the film festivals about it. But it's an interesting part of American and Cuban history, and then also some people say it's going from orphan to mayor. I think it's more than that, because it's about the complexity of relationships with my parents, with identity, where is home, and those kinds of things. And I think by far that's the most popular book I've written. The second one is called Catch and Release, and it's about starting life over when you're 63 years old, as I did. And it's interesting to say that my road to enlightenment was through failures in dating.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden I'm 63 years old and I decide I'm single again, and I decide to start dating. And then what I discovered about myself, why relationships were failing for me, why I was attracting the kind of person that I wasn't with. But then also to look at myself, why do I feel unworthy? Why is it that I think I don't deserve love?
Yeah.
And the whole thing about identifying how all of a sudden not being mayor of Denver, the fact that I didn't get me a date, kind of thing. So that detaching from those things. And then my third book is Discovering Your Greater Self. I took the 100 of the best blogs that I thought I'd written and compiled them into 10 sections of what I think are steps that I took in my own development to reach the point where I am today. I because I am who I am and I'm attached to success. I used to beat myself up that I wasn't getting more followers or more people buying. Mm-hmm. Now I realize that these books are a gift from me to the world. If it helps one person, great. Yeah. And so I'm very proud, and I feel very, I think, at peace with having written these books and have them out to be shared.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and they're all 3 on Amazon.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, and we will share the links in the video description. Well, you have touched on another wonderful attachment release, because it's very easy when you're creating content and putting it on the internet or putting it out into the world to become hyper-focused on, how many followers do I have? How many likes did I get? How many books have I sold? And it is a core spiritual lesson that we do our work, we put our whole heart and effort into the work, and then we release the outcome, and we trust the universe to deliver the message to where it needs to land. And I know that that's happening. I know that you have impacted my life by knowing you, absolutely. And I know that the work that we share together has impacted the lives of many people. And you have just such an amazing, entertaining, but profoundly wise and rich stories to tell. That's why I wanted to talk to you today.
Great. I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Now, let's try to leave our viewers with one or two actionable steps they could begin today, even to live a life that would be considered fearless, aging fearlessly. What are one or two concrete things that people could take away with them today?
Well, I'm assuming, when I started, I certainly was in kindergarten, and I'm maybe now in eighth grade of this process,
Yeah.
So let's go back to the kindergarten days. And that is, the first thing is, can you acknowledge that you're part of a higher sense, that life is about more than just you? And I'm talking, I'm not talking religion, I'm talking spirituality, but sometimes religion and spirituality aren't even connected. So
Sure.
do you have a sense that there is a being or a energy or whatever it is? There's no wrong answer, but that you're part of something greater and that it affects your life.
Right. Right.
So I think you have to start out with that. And then I think even if you're an agnostic, I know people who are agnostic, they recognize that life is bigger than them and that perhaps they were created with purpose and meaning. So I think that you have to start there. Then the first step I would do is then you need to begin to cultivate that relationship. I do it through meditation. Now, meditation, some people do it in other ways. So what I'm going to say about meditation is simply to not describe what I do, but what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it calms the mind. It quiets your mind by taking the 20 minutes. I do 20 minutes. It calms the mind so that you can begin to further this relationship with this higher power. And so what does that mean? That when you're in meditation that you get miraculous thoughts? No. What you're doing, remember we're talking about picking your thoughts. What meditation does is by calming your mind, you begin to improve the soil for new thoughts to emerge. Mm-hmm. And then those thoughts come to you as you get further into it. You begin to see not just the old negative thoughts, but you begin to have new things emerge and come up that you start going, oh, maybe I should do that. So I don't know if meditation is that for you, but that's what it does to me. It cultivates this relationship. Yeah. And then I'd say the second thing is remember that your body is what you have been given. And so to me, the other thing is then do something to cultivate a better body. And I don't mean go and lose 50 pounds or whatever. I mean, maybe, I'm sitting here drinking coffee. This is the only thing I use to, as toxic to my body is the caffeine, but I limit it to 1 cup a day. So, but stop taking drugs or alcohol or things, at least do it to moderation so that you begin to detoxify your body. And again, allow for that healthy stream of thoughts to come in. And then exercise. Exercise also calms the mind. And by that, I don't mean start CrossFit. I mean, go for a walk. Do something that you enjoy doing that you can develop on a day-to-day basis. Now, believe me, I can tell you a whole list of other things. Like to me, like stop watching TV, stop watching material that upsets you. Right. Like horror movies or whatever, they distort your thinking. But that would be another. But I don't think we have time to talk about all the others. But if you can start with those two, you begin to do the calming of the mind that I felt helped me to begin to recognize that there's other things in life, there's other values that are much deeper and much more life-giving than, owning more money or having a new title or whatever. So, does that make sense? Oh, 100% it makes sense. And I already know we're going to have to schedule round 2 where maybe we can go into deeper detail about some of these steps, actionable steps that people can take. Yeah. And to live healthier lives, happier lives, be at more peace, grow personally. But I think, by the way, and I didn't believe this before. If you had told me spirituality is important in your life. And I said, you're full of crap. Don't bother me with that stuff. So, I used to think about the five senses,
Yeah.
smell, touch, see, hear. But there is a sixth sense that I realized. There is a spiritual side of you that most of us live our lives and never really touch it. But it's affecting our lives, just trying to get our attention throughout many of our lives, a lot of times through endings and beginnings.
Right.
And so the realization that it exists and that we should cultivate it, and then also take care of our body to improve that whole connection is extremely important.
Wow, what a great way to summarize that all. And you have a wonderful way, Guillermo, of saying these concepts in words that are easy to understand and at the same time inspirational. It doesn't feel like a data dump, but it's got me actually definitely inspired to keep going down this path of aging fearlessly and taking care of myself, mind, body, spirit, all of the whole package.
Yeah. And I, at the end of the day, I think that is the human journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Oh, well, we will definitely have to schedule part 2 where we can go into a little more detail. And actually, this is a great opportunity. People, please leave in the comments if there is a topic that you would like to learn more about. We can schedule a second interview and take a deeper dive into that particular topic.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, Guillermo. People, before you go, please subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe to a YouTube channel, it's a lot like supporting a local business, but it doesn't cost you anything. But when you subscribe and when you hit the bell to get notifications, you'll know either if I go live or when new video content drops, new future interviews and other content on health, wellness, and mindset. So Guillermo, thank you so much. It was wonderful to see you again. You can find all of Guillermo's contact information in the description of the video. So please check that out. And we look forward to having you back again.
Great. Thank you, Christine, for inviting me to your home, even if it's virtual.
Right, exactly. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you all soon. Bye-bye. Love it.
Well, and certainly people like you have helped me. It really feels wonderful to be able to talk about these things, knowing that I know whoever listened to it, even if it was just one person, that I know if they will do anything similar to what I went through, their lives will be better.